share any mentors that you had in your career or how that helped you, or even those that you're mentoring right now? Do you have any little stories?
I mean, I look, PC was one of mine. Obviously, I met him when I was 19 or 20 when I was turning into pro, and I won't go over our text messages at the time, but he was one of them. And mentors is something, and it's something that we discuss a lot between each other. And you have to be conscious of the people you pick and who you keep around you. And I think that it's a make or break it thing, because you can either be going down the right path or you can be going down the wrong one. And usually, it's your entourage of people that you have around that, keep you on the right one, and or completely lead you down the wrong path, And certainly during the dark days of your seasons and where you're at, it's easy to kind of get along and kind of get in with the wrong crowd, especially, like it's clicks, you're sitting there and so, PC was one of the people that, over my whole career, he's kind of been there for me. And then, I've had other ones over periods of time. Eric Selleck was one that I really enjoyed playing with. Dom Ducharme was a very good coach that I had. He ended up being a head coach with the Montreal Canadiens after being with me in Halifax. The list can go on and on. It was as far as I think PC's list of mentors is probably better than mine. Eric Nielsen, I think he was a mentor for both of us, was an absolute legend. I'll let PC go after that, but I think that the company you keep around you is who you ultimately end up becoming. So,
yeah, I figure when I met Eric Nielsen the first time, it was in San Antonio when both of us were on a tryout for that same spot, right? And I'm not even shy. I'm not even ashamed to say that the guy took the spot and he deserved it. Like, he actually, we were not even sharing a room. And when I got cut, that's why my agent was like, okay, PC, the only spot we have is their farm team in the East Coast is Las Vegas. So you're going to have to report there. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to Vegas. I knew for sure I was not going there. And Nielsen was like the first one, like, hey, take a few days, come in my room. I got 2 beds. We're still in training camp here. Season's not starting. We're not in a rush. So he took me like under his wing. And during that old training camp, every time I walked in the gym, I thought I was going to be first. Eric Nielsen is stretching. Eric Nielsen is rolling. He's doing his shoulder stuff. He's doing his neck warm up and his jaw warm up. He's warming up the jaw. All kinds of crazy stuff that only Eric Nielsen can do. And I started having like, okay, if I want to be like him, to stick around as long as he does, and being able to get jobs with the same kind of, I don't know, role that him. I was like, all right, let's look at him. And really, it was just like going in and talking with everyone and being the nicest teammate. Like, we'll make sure everyone is doing fine before looking after himself. And at that point, I was like, all right, I gotta act like this guy. It's gonna work. So I went to Norfolk. Got really lucky on that one. And honestly, like, I started acting like Eric Nielsen, basically, from what the guys show me every day. And the best thing happened too is the next year. So we got eliminated by Wilkes-Barre that year in the playoff. And Eric Nielsen signed with Norfolk that year, the next year. So I was like, wow, okay. And what was nice is like, now it's like the team was saying, PC, we saw something else than just you going and fight. Now we got Eric Nielsen coming in with that role. So now we want you to actually like do more and
more opportunity.
The bond that we have, me and Eric, was just like, all right, I'm not gonna let you have all the fights. I love you too much to let you fight every night. And obviously, it was taking all the the toughest guy in the game, like McIntyre, and he would go like anybody. There's no hesitation. He was gonna go back to back. Like, I remember him going reckless, and then the next game is going galant. It's
The
like,
machine.
oh man, that guy was just so, like, at some point you have to take a little bit of the charge too. You're like, okay, no, you need to rest your head. Like back then it was not such a big thing, but now looking at it, you're like, man, that guy is just an animal.
PC, I mean, yeah, again, these are all amazing stories and to share with the kids, and even just want to clarify to the kids of maybe their perspective, but they should know that you were not just a fighter. You were, I mean, you had to go into that role because you were versatile, but before, I mean, you came with such size, speed, power.
Yeah, thank you,
So
appreciate it.
in your junior days, were you fighting a lot? Or like when I met you, you were in what's, oh wait, you're probably in what year of junior that year?
08, I think it was my second year, right?
So
Yeah,
were you
it was
fighting
my
during that time or not really?
uh it's weird because if I like now I know, like Pat Roy was like the owner of the Rampart. When I show up at camp, now it's funny because he tells me all the time, if you would have just a fight, I would have keep you in the team. You were so close to make the team, but all he wanted to see is me fight, right? Because I was a big guy.
Yeah.
But like that's why I'm like thinking always like, what happened if you start sitting on that chair? And now they're like, okay, we're gonna keep him because he fights. And now my old junior, I go sitting on the same chair, and I'm like, all right, so now I'm not showing my skills, and so I decided not to sit on it, and I just went to a junior AAA, and then junior A in the Maritime after, and that's where it really started. Like,
Yeah.
I took care of myself in the summer, made sure that I was ready to go, and was making sure that no one could actually like beat me on the ice. And when I got there, um, well, right between the junior AAA in Quetzcook and the junior A in Campbellton, I went for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 games with the senior league. And the captain was probably like 30 some years old. I was 18. He decided to drop his glove because I kept hitting him. And that was my first real fight where like I actually knocked the guy out. And I was like, okay, this is fun. I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. So when I went junior A in the Maritime, I was not letting anybody step on my toes, but my number one role was still to produce and play the right way, and that's what brought me to the Quebec Rampart at my 20 years old year. And no, you're right. It's something that came in pro. When I got to pro, I was like, you remember Mario Bliznak? Was he there?
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
I was there, yeah.
So I remember looking at like who's stand where in the depth chart, and I was like, all right, I'm out. They're gonna cut me. This guy's there, and this guy's there, and I don't fit. So I was like, the only way I can stay is if they're like, okay, there's a wow factor. So that's why I start fighting crazy kind of,
Added
and it
that.
doesn't take long, eh, Forn?
Hey, you do it once and you're tied in it for life, man.
That's it. You get that sticker on your back, man.
Oh, every single guy's looking at the stat pack the game before, and they're like, "Oh, he fought this guy that was tough." Well, guess what? Tonight he's mine.
That's
Hey, all you have to do is look at the PIM, odd number,
Yeah, if there was an odd number, you were in. That's it.
5, whatever, 17. You knew, oh, this guy fights.
that's
And,
right.
the beginning of the year too was the worst, right? Because that's like, you're coming back from summertime, and in the first 10 games, you know what? Like if you were putting in a good shift, man, you could end up at 50, 60 penalty minutes already, and then you got the target on your back the second you do it. All right, like second that it starts, it never ends.
Yeah, and it takes a long time to actually like go back to play after the rookie year. It's like sometimes you never recover from that. You just establish as a tough guy that fights, and that's your role. But again, like when you have a mentor like Jon Cooper who sees something else, and it's crazy because he was able to see stuff in practice. He was able to judge you in practice and be like, he can bring that to the game now. I don't need to see him doing it more in the game. I can trust him from the practice, the way, like just the work ethic. He looks at like how intense you are and the bad check in practice, just stuff like that. And it just built up with
he
him.
knew what it took. Like,
Yeah, he knew.
Player from practice to
He knew because he was able to really like separate every individual, just like, okay, this guy is more like this, I got to treat him differently than this guy. It was not like a global treatment. It was everyone specific, and that the guys really respect that.
He can read players, I think.
Yeah.
Just going a little bit about what you were sharing there, of sounds like you implemented fighting into who you were as a player, where you had to. And I think a lot of these kids, it's not to do with fighting, as fighting is, I think, slowing down. There is still fighting in the game, juniors and above, but for these younger kids in minor hockey, youth hockey, I think, some are so disappointed and frustrated that when they get cut, and a lot of time, I mean, sometimes it's the parents too, and they talk about, oh, the politics, or oh, so and so this, like they're all trying to find the reason, when it's little things that they can do or switch up. And we try to pass along with our skill development to all these players. Now, last year we had 11 spring teams, but these kids need to learn all positions, because if you're more versatile, you're going to be picked up by different teams and recruited, and when they're allowed to trade and do that stuff, that all stuff happens. And just, I think the parents can really try to, whether it's their decision making or how they're passing along their information to the kids, and try not to be super negative about it. I mean, it obviously is a negative that you're getting cut and not being somewhere where you want to be or feel you should be, but it's always trying to take that, turning it, like you're saying, and implementing something. And so it doesn't have to be fighting it for these kids, but obviously little things like check harder, forecheck harder, back check harder, go to net, like Fourn said. Implement these little things that is going to be way more attractive for a coach or these evaluators to check out. I think it's extremely important. And as we all know, leadership